Welcome, everybody, to the Fantasy Golf Bag live stream. I'm your host, Drew Matthews, also known as Red Kachik. We'll give everybody a couple minutes, we'll say a minute or two, to navigate in here. Working with something new today should be a little bit easier to, yeah, it looks like everything is working pretty good. So, all right, like I said, this is a live stream presented by fantasygolfbag.com. So you can find the PGA rankings. It'll be completely free. We'll be actually talking about them today. Going through those, going through the weather. All right, I'll give everybody a minute. Hamhock, thank you for joining, man. Hope everything's going good. Adam Scott week. I think so, actually. I think so. Vlad, welcome. This is key for the week. Adam Scott week. Yes. I mean, he's posting his swing videos on Instagram. What else do we want here? Let's see. All right. Let me go ahead and pull up a couple things. False. Crack drafter. False. Adam will not burn you. Adam Longwood. That's happened multiple times, not Adam Scott. Let me pull up. Let's start with some weather talk first. I don't think there's much weather, but I'll go ahead and bring it up just because it helps kind of set the framework for the show. Let me see. Let me share my screen. All righty. Should fit the screen. There we go. Let me change it to this one, and we are out of here. All righty. Fade Wise and Gooch this week. I mean, we'll look at ownership here in a second. It's there's some tough fades because I think in different ranges there's guys, unlike last week and the last couple of weeks, honestly, that they feel like they're really strong plays and it's hard to avoid them. So this is kind of like the nuts of the PGA Tour season when it comes to the summer next year or last summer, whenever the nuts of the PGA Tour season is. And yeah, it's very tough sometimes to kind of go through everything and think, man, this guy's it's really hard to miss. But yeah, we'll see. I don't think I can fade Wise. Gooch is probably the one I could fade, but Wise is a tough one. Wise is playing pretty good, and he played well here. Okay, so what I found was I thought this was interesting. So obviously, Roto Grinders does weather for all the different sports. So this is Kevin Roth. Like him or hate him, it doesn't really matter. He does have sometimes, most of the time, valuable information about weather. So across the MLB, obviously, he's gotten a few games wrong, or he's foreseen some rain that never showed up, whatever it is. But he does have like a little snippet here for weather. So it gives you a kind of an overall view of it. I also have the weather I'll pull up here in just a second from Windfinder. And then obviously Crack Drafter just dropped it into our Discord chat. I'm actually under the registration for Fantasy Golf Bag on Twitch. I actually can't say that word. I shouldn't have said the G word, Vince. But yeah, so he's got a nice little snippet here. So again, Thursday, Friday, the weekend looks really good. Crack Drafter just dropped it in our Discord. You can find the link to the Discord if you go to fantasygolfbag.com. But yeah, you can see here Thursday, he talks about there's a little bit of rain and he marks it yellow. But honestly, I think Crack Drafter is spot on, and I agree with him. There's actually a little bit of a benefit with it softening the golf course up. Yes, it's 7,400 yards. Yes, it's actually going to make it longer. But in my opinion, it actually makes the fairway wider. So that's a good thing. They're not going to play a lift, clean, and place or anything like that. It's not going to be a Victor Hovland type of tournament. But it also sets up really nice into the greens, obviously. That's really the the pros and cons between the rain is it's going to shorten the golf, or it's going to lengthen the golf course because the ball's not going to go as far. But into the green, that's a huge thing. So he kind of talks about it here, but he marks it yellow. But I just want to kind of preface this. It's actually a pretty good tool. So maybe during the week, if you're kind of going into Kapalua in a couple weeks, in a month and a half, this might be a nice little snapshot. You can kind of browse, and then on Wednesday you check the actual wind finder. So I'm going to use Derek's thing. I think he has a link to it. I've used it the last couple of times because I hate trying to find a satellite or a host site for some of these events, especially Bermuda. Hawaii's a tough one. Like going to Sony or Kapalua, like you have to like jump an island, and then you have to figure out like which island and which side of the island, because the wind's actually going different directions on different sides. It's ridiculous. But yeah, so Ronnie, thanks for joining, man. Good to see you. Just talking through some weather really quick, and then we'll get into some plays. But you can see here Thursday talks about a little bit of rain, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m. We'll say 10 no. But 8, 9, a little bit of rain to soften it up. And so I think it gives a slight bump to the AM a little bit. Obviously, don't X out the afternoon. But you can see it's going to be really nice weather for the next couple of days. Just low wind, some gusts. It's Texas, no big deal. But did want to point that out. And obviously, rotor grinders with that little tool is pretty nice. I don't know if this is a premium thing or not, to be honest. But if you have rotor grinders for any other sports, the combo, I guess, includes every sport. But use it up. So, all right, I got Data Golf up. We'll be talking through some players, looking through some, we'll call it game logs for now. Let me go to the player rankings. I'll kind of recapitulate my article for this week. I think it's pretty straightforward for me in like single entry. I'm not playing cash. I just don't play a lot of cash nowadays. But in my opinion, the cash mindset really is kind of my single entry mindset in a way. Like you're just looking for safety in a lot of spots. You're looking for a median projection or median outcome, and the ceiling of the floor is very, very close. That's really it. So we'll talk through this. My biggest thing, was I don't know if any other sites have Sam Burns over like 25%. I don't know if he'll get that high. I've heard he's creeping up, but FanDuel was early on with the pricing that they have, 25 to 30%. That's a fade for me. And I think I mentioned that on the podcast too. I'm really surprised to see Sungjae at the same projected ownership, but yeah, Sam Burns at 25 to 30 is a fade. So I just rather, if you're playing on both sites, just fade. In my opinion, fade FanDuel, play him on DK, and then let the chips fall where they may. If he plays well, you're great on DK. You can still cash and do everything else on FanDuel, but it gives you a little bit of leverage and doesn't kind of put your chips all in one basket because the pricing does make a difference. Free roll for life. I don't know what that's pertaining to. Maybe it's 4-ball. I'm not sure, Ronnie, but we need to, if you just win like, an NFL final for $2.5 million, then you can free roll for life, like Big T and Whistles Go Woo. But yeah, so let's go back to DK, and I'll kind of walk through my depiction of this. So I'll go back to this one. Hamhock is spot on. It's Adam Scott week. Yes. Adam Scott at 9,600. I think I brought him up last week or the week before. Just in passing. Like he doesn't play a lot of events, but when he does play, his ball striking stats are always consistent. It's just a matter of if the course fit him on the greens. I like the idea that this course should be that low teens number for a winning score. So I like Adam Scott quite a bit this week at 9,600. He's going to be around 10%, which is great. Compare that with Brooks Koepka, who's going to be, I assume lower than 8%, but let me take Adam Scott week off of here. But yeah, so Adam Scott, I think I made a comment in my article, if you're looking to make a cash lineup and you're really nervous about paying up for Sam Burns, because like $2,000, $1,500, it's a big step up. If you think about the salary savings that you would have down in the low sevens and the sixes, back up to the sevens. So always, in my opinion, kind of build the top last, but keep in mind who you want to go to. and then go from there. So Sam Burns is the guy that I really want to get into all my DK lineups. Crack Drafter hates me for saying it, but he's one of those guys. He sets up too good on paper. It doesn't really, to me, it doesn't make sense to fade him for any of these guys around him. They could all win, sure, but for seeing how well he's played this fall, and obviously having, I think he had 2 wins last year, or at least 1 win, and then a couple close ones. But then this tournament, he was leading after the second round and after the third round, and then finished T7. So I honestly think people can say, oh, if he finished in the top 10, that's good. But for him to be leading on Friday and Saturday, I think that's a really good sign for things to come this week. He didn't go crazy low. I think I have his scores up. He shot Sam Burns 68, 65, 68. I mean, nothing crazy. I mean, honestly, Taylor Gooch finished 4th, and he shot 63 the low round of the tournament the last day. Otherwise, he was back at, if he didn't shoot that, he just shot like an average number, he would have finished T24. Changes the whole perspective of Taylor Gooch right there. He's obviously playing well the last couple weeks, but it doesn't sound as good as a T4. Just like Sam Burns T7 doesn't sound as good as saying he was leading after Friday and Saturday. So those are the guys I want to go to. Sung Jan would be in my GPP pool, and then I would try to trim it off of that. Matthew Wolff is a little bit of a scary fade. I think he's due to win very soon, as well as he's been playing this fall, which is good to see. And maybe it's just worth betting outright for me, but that's pretty much it in this range here. We kind of talked about Aaron Wise. Again, a guy that looks really good on paper. They're both going to be really popular, but if I'm not eating too much chalk, and I don't think there's anybody crazy chalky in like the mid 7s, at least here. Yeah, so I don't have a problem playing a Sam Burns and then a Wise and then getting different. Let's see. See what Wolff did between round 1 and round 2 last week. What did he do? Like score-wise, you mean? I mean, that's honestly, that could be the golf course, because the driving distance numbers typically measure on 2 holes a day. So it doesn't take much to be way off. So keep that in mind. I mean, if it was, there used to be a stat that we kept at Fantasy Golf Bag, and it would be all drives. So you could literally pick apart, like, we used it a lot when we went to Pebble. You don't want to use drive distance on, I think it was 1, 7, and 8, or 1, 6, and 7, something like that. There was a couple holes in the middle of the front 9, and then 1 or 2 on the back 9 that they hit iron or they hit hybrid off of. There's no point in counting the driving distance, but at least that gives you more of a number. You get drives on the par 4s, you get drives on the par 5s. Typically, the driving distance is measured on 1 or 2 par 5s, and it's just like kind of like the straightest hole they can find, and that's it. So it doesn't take much to just hit a bad drive, you don't look great. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. And maybe he did scale back the driver, and it just depends on the situation for that hole. But again, I wouldn't take too much out of that. I mean, honestly, so this is what Ronnie's comment was. He saw Vince had added to that. He went from 320 to 290 the next day. I mean, 30 yards is a big difference, kind of 10%, right? But it's really, it's not a, he could hit it 320 on one hole and hit it 290 the next hole and hit it 340 the next hole. So it just varies. No big deal. All right. So going down into the 8K range, and then as you have questions, I'll be happy to answer or go look up any of these guys. Like even, I don't know if Wolff has his driving distance up. Obviously, there's no strokes gain data last week. Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, that does show me that he did gear back, right? I mean, for his distance to only be, we know he's a longer guy. Like this seems normal to me. 23 yards over the average. I assume that's what that means, not 23%. So 23 yards over the average, 33 yards over the average at the Sanderson. Obviously, you can kind of bomb it. You know, his approach numbers look good. Yeah, and you go to Mayakoba, you do have to hit it straighter. So that's a perfect example when we talk about guys fitting a golf course. Like we'll see, I don't know if DJ's in the field at the RSM, or not the RSM. I'm thinking of Hilton Head. But like when DJ plays Hilton Head, on paper, anyone else in the world is a better fit on that golf course than DJ. But DJ doesn't play that course like he would play the Masters or the US Open or any other long golf course. So that's actually a really good example. So I'm glad you guys brought that up. But you can see, in this situation, I'd be willing to bet he tailored his game for Mayakoba, because Mayakoba does require a little bit more accuracy off the tee. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Crack Drafter mentioned he was a bad course fit last week, and I countered with he will fit himself to the golf course. To go back to the record, but I believe so. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's easier said than done, Doozy. Honestly, this is every golfer. You get to the hole that's tight without a bounds, and I mean, you know in your mind you just need to hit it straight, but it's so hard to hit it straight without steering it, which makes it go way right or way left, whatever your miss is. But he got lucky. Yeah, he's been very lucky this year, this season. Crack. All right, so I mean, I guess I'll take the L if I want to give Crack an L. I'll take the L in Seamus Power. I don't remember what he finished last week. I'll go pull it up. I feel like he finished in the top 15. I don't think it was a top 10, maybe top 20, but T11, so almost a top 10. Pretty good. There's a little bit of that. I don't think he's very long off the tee anyways, but there's your short and accurate. He's really not a bad play again this week. I'm in a weird spot of trying to be the first one in to fade him last week when he was being hyped up everywhere, and he played great. So I'll give kudos to whoever wanted to play him or talked about him last week. But again, I showed you the long-term chart on him. I think it was actually up on Data Golf. I think if I pull another season, you can kind of see, like, I mean, he's had a really good this whole second half of the year since May has been actually really, really, really good. I think of him like this. So I'm biased, I guess. But yeah, I actually don't think this is a terrible spot for him. If he's been hitting it, halfway decent, he doesn't have to go super, super low on this golf course. It is a bit longer. So I would say, his driving distance is a bit of a concern. This is not this season. Like the Shriners, that's kind of the distance of the golf course. I mean, they're going to have to hit more drivers. So losing 11 yards, you're still gaining off the tee, but you're losing 11 yards. So that's a good barometer there. So I don't hate it. I'm not going to go back to him, I don't think. I think Maverick McNeely is a good play off of last week. His ownership's way up there. I get it, but it's a good spot. I think he played well last year. Yeah. So on the weekend here last year, he shot 67-67. So another thing with this golf course being the second time they're playing it this year, the second time they've played it in the last 60 years, just seeing a little bit of good scoring from last year. And I think I've talked about this before. Like sometimes, especially in course history, I've definitely said this because I think Vince brought it up 2 weeks ago. Like seeing somebody that has at least some low scores on a golf course means more to me than just like a top 15, a top 10, a top 20. Like that is good, but they're going to be 10K because of that. Like they're not going to be priced out. They're priced way down or something like that. But what I do like to see is somebody with 65 or a 64 one of the days. Like I'll even look at guys that missed the cut on a tournament. If I'm really interested in playing a cheaper guy that's low owned, I'll go back and look at his missed cut and see. Like I think someone did this last week. I think they shot like 78, 66 or 67, something like that. And it happens a lot of times where one guy just shoots himself out of it on Thursday. He's destined to miss the cut. But seeing a 66, like a guy that missed the cut at Riviera and he shot 76 and then he shot 65 but missed the cut by a shot. It's not the same as a guy that shot 74, 74, 72, 72, something like that. So keep that in mind. I do like Maverick McNeely. It's good to see that he had some good scores last weekend, and then he had good scores in this tournament over the weekend last year. In this range, I don't think anybody stood out to me too much. Russell Henley is really intriguing. His stats have been pretty phenomenal. Really since the second half of the year, to be honest. So if we look through, we have no data from last week, so we'll assume it was pretty good. I can't imagine it just completely went the other way. But look at his approach numbers. Off the tee is pretty good at the CJ Cup. Not good finishes, but he's not putting well. And we go back to the end of 2021, a lot of the same thing. Like some good finishes, T13, T11, T7. Like Wyndham's a long, tough golf course, probably similar to this a little bit. But he's gaining strokes on approach off the tee, just losing strokes on putting, which isn't really something I'm that concerned with this week. Let's see. I think Hughes is an interesting play. We'll talk about him. I actually heard, I think Derek mentioned him as well. So did he shoot? Oh, the 63. So yeah, I mean, that's obviously a good sign. 70. So we'll get to Mackenzie Hughes, but what these guys are talking about right here, Mr. Vince and no, it's Vince twice. I think someone else said it too. Ronnie mentioned his passport. The yeah, so Mackenzie Hughes shot 70, 72, 68, 63. Most people know Mackenzie is a very good iron player, so we'll get to that. Let's see. All righty. Okay. I'm trying something new out, so that's why if you see me clicking around, I'm trying to make sure this stuff is sized right. So far so good. I actually like this. This is a new software. I heard it from the Pete LOL's podcast, StreamYard, and it's actually pretty nice. So I can click y'all's comments and pop them up. Have guests on if I need to. Move myself around way easier than the OBS stuff that I was using before. So pretty nice. Let's see here. So back to it. Like I said, in this range, talked about Adam Scott, talked about Wise, and then talked about McNeely and Power. And that's really it. Like Shane Lowry, I tried playing last week. It's so difficult because the golf courses are so different. And there's not a lot of data. I mean, there's no data from last week. So it does make it difficult. For myself, that I harp on people overuse the data, it's still really nice to have something to look at from last week. Because I don't know what his deal was. And it stinks like, man, like some of our old data where we could go back through really hole by hole, because there were some big scores. We'll talk about Mito here in a second. I mean, he shot 42 on Friday to miss the cut. He probably was going to miss the cut anyways by a shot or two anyways. But that, like I said, a 42 with a double bogey and then like 3 or 4 bogeys, all from tee shots. That means that he was having some issues with the driver. Doesn't necessarily mean that it equates to having a bad week with the driver on this golf course. Like 7,400 yards, yeah, but Mayakoba's tight. I mean, Mayakoba's a pretty nasty golf course if you're spraying a little bit. So I'm not too concerned with that. Yeah, I think that's it. We can come back up to Mito and HV3. I think that's interesting. Let me pull up my article so I don't miss somebody. Make sure I don't overlook somebody. 1 second. I see Alex in the Discord. Thanks for the new software compliment, man. Yeah, it's more expensive than what I was using, but it's a lot easier to get set up and it's a lot easier to have guests on and stuff like that. So we'll have to use it up. All right. I think we're good. Ronnie, yes, 7,400 yards, par 70. And like I said, I mean, we'll see how the guys play it this year after seeing it for the first time last year. But I mean, Carlos Ortiz came out of nowhere essentially last year to win. It should have been Hideki Matsuyama. He shot 63 on Sunday to finish at 11 under. Carlos Ortiz shot 65, just blitzed it on the back nine to shoot 65 and finish at minus 13. But we'll call Hideki Matsuyama minus 11 the number. Plus one was T44. Minus one was T32. So, I mean, there was 30 guys 10 strokes apart, basically. So it's a very tough golf course. Chad Ramy, I wanted to highlight. So before I forget about him, and then we'll come up to Mito, because I'm sure there'll be comments from Crack Drafter on Mito, because we keep going back and forth on when to play him and when not to play him. But I like him this week. Chad Ramy, 9% owned. Chad Ramy, give me all the Chad Ramy I can get. I like him for a first round lead. I don't get each ways down here, I don't think. I actually didn't look it up. I just went straight to get the first round lead number. But Chad Ramy has been playing extremely well, and I don't think this is a time to hop off. So let me pull up his stats here on Data Golf really quick so you can see. Fortinet Championship starting off the year. I think he finished off on the Korn Ferry Tour. Yeah, so I mean, you can look through his consistency. I mean, I understand it's the Korn Ferry Tour versus the PGA Tour, but these guys are playing a lot of golf. That's really good. I mean, look at this stretch. He missed a week here. Let's see. So he missed a week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 straight weeks in a row. Yeah, 5 straight weeks in a row. T58, T4, T7, T18, T11. It's pretty good. He should be on the PGA Tour. So now he's on the PGA Tour. He misses his first cut. Next week, T63, a little bit better. T14 at the Shriners, a little bit better. Off the tee numbers look good. Approach numbers look good. Then the Butterfield Bermuda in 40-mile-per-hour winds. I don't know if he had the morning wave or the afternoon wave, but it doesn't matter. It was still tough, just tougher in the morning. T17 there. So looking at his numbers, I mean, it looks really good. I don't know if his driving accuracy, I'm pretty sure they have an accuracy number on the Korn Ferry Tour, so I'm not sure why they don't have that here. But yeah, Chad Ramy, I like quite a bit this week. Back to the rankings. Any questions? Indeed. All righty. Yeah, Crack Drafter's in on Ramy. I'm in on Ramy. I like Ramy. Honestly, if I was playing cash, he would be the first one in because I think his price is really good. You kind of got to figure out where you want to go in this mid-range. Like, I almost want to just go up to Wise. If I was playing cash, I'd probably go up to Wise first because I feel like I need somebody in the 9s and the 8s. So play Ramy. I'd probably go up to Wise. Between Wise and Gooch, it's the same ownership basically, but Wise, if I had the money, I'd probably get Adam Scott. But get those two, kind of keep Adam Scott or Burns in the back pocket, and then we'll go down here to the cheap guys and see if anything makes sense. It's the longer I looked at it, it's really tough to find some decent cash options. I had my article pulled up. Let's see. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and avoid burying the lead right here. 6,700. So Grayson Sigg does not grade out very well per the rankings. He's going to be 2% owned. I like Grayson Sigg, and I'll show you why. So the ranking. So again, we talked about this last week. The fault in calling it a model, but any of the data that we have at this point in the season, this fall swing. So if you're going back a month, 2 months, 24 rounds, 36 rounds, whatever, it's going to pull in none of these last two tournaments. Yeah, so Butterfield and the Mayakoba. And that's data that we need. Otherwise, it's going to go back to here, and it's pulling. He lost 1.6 at the Sanderson. That has to be a couple water balls. I mean, there's no way a professional golfer is losing 2 strokes on approach in 2 rounds without hitting in the water once or twice in the same round, if not on the same hole. 2021, he came from the Korn Ferry Tour, very up and down season. So he had 2 wins. He almost had a 3rd win for a promotion. I shouldn't say that. He had 2 wins. I don't think they counted 2020. But you can see he's pretty consistent. A lot of top 15s. Last year was more up and down, but still had 2 wins. So very kind of boom or bust. But what I'd like to see is him trying to trending in the right direction with playing the last 2 weeks and maybe carrying that momentum in. Because, I mean, honestly, at 6,700, if he finishes in the top 25, that's fantastic. So I do like Grayson Sigg a good bit. It kind of goes to the point of some of these guys are missing data. So I kind of had to go and game log watch for some of them to see if they've had some good low scores maybe. Because like some of these guys missed the cut on the number. I think Harold Varner missed it on the number last week, and he played pretty good, just not good enough for the lower cut. So that's really the crux of the issue at this point in the fall swing. Let's see. Luke List, everyone's favorite. Luke List at 6,900 grades out very well. Should grade out very well for everybody in terms of ball striking stats. We can pull him up. There's someone else. Oh, Kyle Stanley's actually really interesting, but he's been losing. I want to say 4 to 6 strokes putting a tournament. Like, it's unreal. I'll go pull it up then, ensure that I'm not completely misspeaking. But I remember looking through Kyle Stanley because I thought Kyle Stanley was an interesting play this week. As cheap as he is, I believe he's like 6,300. Kyle Stanley, yeah, 6,300. Yeah, we'll go look at him in just a second. he's terrible. So Luke List is also terrible at putting, but he's been playing very good. So he won the Korn Ferry Tour Finals. If they have it on here, they don't have it on here. I'm pretty sure he won the Korn Ferry Tour Finals. I'm not sure why. Well, now I got myself second guessing. Give me a second. Luke List, PGA Tour. List is long. List you just know is something bad's gonna happen. Kyle Stanley is like legit tilting because you can feel the 3-putt coming. I remember playing him at the Congressional up in Washington, D.C. He had I was watching on PGA Tour Live because I was overweight on Kyle Stanley in a lot of contests. I pull up PGA Tour Live. He's like with the second group off. He pars number 1. He misses like a 10-footer for birdie. I'm like, okay, well, that's okay. Goes to the next hole, hits it to like 4 feet. Well, he's gonna make that one. He's got to make this one. Misses it. He has 3 feet coming back. He misses it. He makes a bogey from 4 feet. And that's what tilting is all about. I mean, oh my God, I remember watching. And I think I stopped watching PGA Tour Live the rest of the season. This was 2019 actually. I stopped watching it because of that one moment. I suspended my account and stopped watching. Results. Let me double check this. Oh, I was incorrect. It's incorrect. Yes, I was incorrect. Take that back. So that was the 2020 part of this season, but 2020. So disregard what I said. Back to Luke List. So he did not win the Tour Championship 6 weeks ago. But T7 is Zozo. I feel a little bit less giddy about playing him, so he would be bumped pretty far down my list. I'll update my rankings for that. For some reason, I saw he won the 2020, and I must have just forgot we were in 2021. I'm just a dunce. So I think he's fine if you want to go there. I do like Jason Duffner a bit more. He's 6,300, so I'll go ahead and segue into a worse play, I'm sure, Jason Duffner. If we pull up Jason Duffner's score, so T42, the Butterfield Bermuda. So let me see if I can pull up his scores really quick from the Bermuda, because I'm pretty sure he was one of those guys that shot like 71, 68 or something and missed it on the number. And then he actually finished last season off better. I mean, he had a really bad 2021, but you can see like his last 4 finishes, given easy courses, T18, T26, T28, T24. Not doing anything great, but enough for a $6,300 guy. Like I said, he's $6,300 right here. So to me, that's worth a play. Not in single entry, not in cash. Honestly, in single entry, I wouldn't hate it, because like the amount of salary you save, $6,300 for a guy like that, that's not bad. I don't think I had anyone else in this low tier. Yeah, there's 2 more in the 6Ks, and then I'll move back up to that 7K range we were talking about. Euro locks in 52 minutes. Vince, let me get you off the screen, buddy. Papa Wolf, tell me which Euro is going to shoot 78, 79 tomorrow. I haven't built my team, but it'd be one of the 6 that I play. I think I played Campillo last week, and I didn't do good in Euro at all last week. But I feel like I was okay. But I think Campillo shot like 90, 88, 84, 80. I mean, 80, 90 is the same thing at that point. It was not good. Yeah, so make sure you get your Euro lineups in. Okay, so the other 2 in this range that I want to talk about, I do like actually quite a bit. Denny McCarthy and Russell Knox. I think Russell Knox is, what is he priced? $69. Yeah, $6,900. Let me pull up those guys, because Knox is more of like a guy you play when he's playing well. I'm kind of telling myself there's a little bit of a course fit aspect there, because there's really he doesn't have to go crazy low. He's picked up distance since or 2 seasons ago. He's picked up distance. But he's been very up and down. So you can see a T58, T29 miscut, T12 miscut. Again, Mayakoba is just a weird golf course. I'm not too concerned with that. I don't think. Yeah. So last year he shot 69, 71, 67, 68. So Russell Knox is a fun play for me at 6,900. And then the last one was Denny McCarthy down here, who I'm probably going to bump ahead of Luke List now. So Denny McCarthy coming off of a miscut, T17, miscut, T39, T15. Again, we don't have stats. So like if you look at Denny McCarthy, where'd you go? Right here. So 69, perfect. I mean, that's a meme number, so we know that we need to play him. But he's not popping, and he's not going to pop for anybody. Like I said, there's no data for these last two weeks. I assume he gained strokes putting and not so much ball striking wise, but it's still, you kind of got to go with what you have. So seeing a T15 last week, I want to kind of ride that momentum before he adds another T15, and then people are all aboard at the RSM. So that's kind of my thinking on it. It's almost, to be honest, it's a lot of work, but you have an advantage. Like we did talk about this last week, so I apologize for repeating myself, but I think it's an important point. When you're when you're all pulling in data and you're all essentially looking at the same thing. So however many people are watching this, there's like 9 or 10 right now. Most likely, if we were to, whatever you do for your process, if it uses data or stats, you're most likely within like a couple percentage points, a couple points of a ranking point of every single golfer between all of us on this live stream right now. So how do you differentiate? Well, you got to go a little bit off the board. You got to kind of monitor ownership more. That's where ownership comes in such big importance in these sports nowadays, because everybody's got kind of the same data access. But I actually think it's an advantage when you look at these results that don't use those stats. People don't game log that much anymore. At least in golf, it doesn't seem that way. They feel like with Mayo and everybody going mainstream with statistics, which is great, I think too many people actually, like I've talked about with putting, people actually think putting is a bad stat. Like if someone gains stroke putting, that's bad. Doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. People gain strokes putting. Look at Jordan Spieth. If you faded Jordan Spieth all last year, you would have lost money, or at least not won 10 times, 15 times, however many times he teed it up last year. So I actually think it's like I said, it's a lot of work, and most people don't have the time to go through it. But I think it's interesting if you do go back and look at last week's scores, and maybe just use pricing. Look at how guys played. Like if I pulled up Denny McCarthy and see T15, oh, that's interesting. And you go and look it up. Oh, Denny McCarthy. He's not grading out very well. He's 5% owned. Seems interesting, because all the good plays are going to have ownership attached. So keep that in mind, because I think that's an interesting angle. Doesn't happen very much, and I apologize for mentioning it on a Wednesday. But it's actually, you can use it to your advantage, because it's essentially a black hole. You don't know what he did last week. He could have gained 19 strokes putting somehow. Lost 12, lost 4, and lost 5. Or 3. And then gained 19 strokes putting. So this is true. Yeah, I mean, I do think his putter was good, but like I said, I don't care so much, because it is a little bit of an unknown. I think I would be, if it makes sense, I probably would be less inclined to play him if I knew his putting was really good last week and it was no ball striking. But because I don't know that, I know that no one else really knows that, unless they went and counted his putts per round or something, which I don't know, probably less than 5% of the field will do. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting play. I mean, I don't have pricing matched up to any of these guys, but like John Huh, I think Crack Drafter has John Huh in a matchup against Mito. I think it was Mito. I could be wrong there, Crack, but like that's kind of the angle you want to look at. Someone played, I think Ronnie Lee that's in the chat, he mentioned he played Danny Lee last week because he played well with Bermuda. We didn't have much data off of Bermuda, and he backed it up with a T7 last week. That would have been, that's the angles that you want. Same with Matthew Wolff to a certain extent. So keep that in mind. I know I'm probably preaching to the choir a little bit, and I'm sure this is stuff you all know. But I think there is a little bit of an angle when people are missing data. You have an opportunity to go kind of gather your own assumptions, because people are taking the easy way out. They're pulling whatever models from whatever sites and saying, this guy's a good play because X, Y, Z. I mean, that's honestly what these rankings are kind of doing. And you'll see it if I go down this list. I want to play guys that aren't on this, like Jason Day. I'm not really interested in Charlie Hoffman, but Sebastian Munoz might be worth a shot. So that's probably the main takeaway from that little spiel. It's you kind of use that to your advantage. Don't just kind of blindly go off rankings, but I'm sure most of y'all already know that. Danny is Ronnie's nephew. That's pretty good. I noticed a resemblance in his profile pic versus Danny Lee's picture. Man, I had a popsicle before I came on this show. A little sugar boost, and I am parched. Oh. All right, Hamhawk. Hamhawk says, took all my ownership cap off on my 150 build, and my highest ownership lineup was only at 81%. Yeah, I mean, there you go. I think that's a good point because crack drafters angle will be ownership, and most DFS in general is ownership is very important. But like I said, Sam Burns isn't going to get. I mean, maybe he does because it's been some weird ownership Thursday mornings tweets from Sky lately. But I mean, 20% for Sam Burns. These guys are all very good, but there's just a lot going for him. And then Aaron Wise at 23%. After that, you're around 10 or sub 10. So, I mean, right there, if you played those two, you're at 40. If you played 4 other guys at 10, you're at 80. So, I mean, yeah, I honestly ham hock in some of those, maybe bump it down just a little bit. Like what I do when I run 150 is I run it in batches, and it's not always the same number. But I do this for NFL. I do this for NBA. I think I started it when I Papa Wolf will like this. I think I started when I was doing League of Legends last summer for COVID. But you kind of get you get your rankings or your projections, whatever you're using for determining who goes in lineups. But when you break it out, instead of 150, and you break it down to like 25, 25 or 30, 30, 30, 30, 30. That's probably better. 5 30s. You have an opportunity to kind of see your ownership after 30 and maybe some value play you didn't cap an ownership at. He's in 80% of your lineup somehow or 60%. And you're like, man, I only want him in 10%. And you cut him to 10 right there. It helps you progress instead of running 150 and then tweaking your ownerships and then running 150 and then tweaking your ownership, at least for me. So maybe in like one of those batches, if that's how you run it, cut it down to like 50 and just see what spits out. It might be interesting. And those might be the ones that really crush. But I mean, I know you had a big, was it NFL or MLB a month ago or so. So I'm sure you know exactly what you're doing, but that's for everyone else. That's kind of a good way that I've looked at doing it. Even a 20 max, I'll run a 10 and a 10. I think that's a good way to do it. All righty, let's see. So you have Killa Keith against John Ha and Pendrith against Mito. Pendrith and Moore are interesting, right? Like, I think we've been back and forth on them the last 3 weeks. So Pendrith, I didn't play him. Did I play him last week? I think I played him last week, so obviously that didn't work out. But he's been playing really good. Approach numbers are not good. The T5 was one of those black hole moments of I don't know. He obviously did something right to finish T5, and it was super windy, all the above. Like I feel like my thought was at the Bermuda Championship, if you played well, you couldn't have putted your way to a good finish because it was so windy. Like the ball striking is so important in wind, which is why like the British Open, besides scrambling to a certain extent, ball striking is like the most important thing in general, not the stat ball striking, but being able to hit good solid iron shots, good solid tee shots is very important in the wind. So I assumed all this kind of went more green this week. And then he just played terrible at the Mayakoba. So yeah, that's a good angle to kind of have a bounce back. I know he's talking strictly betting, but that's one of those black holes that didn't work out. And maybe now 2 black holes, it can work out going the other way. Taylor Moore was one that I think I mentioned on the podcast, and he's a little bit up and down. So I'm curious if you guys have a take on him. His off the tee numbers are good. Approach has been bad, which is what kind of scared me. His finishes have been good, so I was intrigued by that. But the irons, like at least gain some. You don't have to be gaining a lot of strokes with your irons, but like if this was flipped and you gained two rounds or 2 tournaments of the 3 and lost one of the 3, I'd feel a little bit better about it. But I don't love seeing negative strokes gained approach in 2 of the 3 that he's played in so far. And then you go back to last year. I mean, he's just a very good player all around. So it's probably worth a shot. But that was concerning to me. And we haven't seen him in a while either. Speaking of golfer parlay, did you see Awesemo had a 13-leg parlay? Yeah, I think he had I don't know what the first one was. He had two, actually. It was a, let's see. I think I can pull it up on that screen. 1 second. We're doing this on the fly. On live, on the fly. Let me see. Yeah, I think I got it. Let's see if this works. Cool. I think you guys can see. Perfect. All right, so check this out. So he posted one earlier. Kills me. It's going to be tiny, tiny, tiny. I'm trying to zoom in for you. Oh, well. Either way. So the very top here, it says $140 for $1,008,919. 13 pick parlay. All player props in the NBA. So that was one. And then he added a second one right here. $250 for $1,020,505.78. 13 pick parlay. All player props. That's kind of the enticingness of the long parlays for, look at this guy. No, I'm not watching that. God. Yeah, the Millie Maker bet. All right. The last two I'll talk about, and then we'll finish it up with some final questions. Mito and HV3. Let me see if I can pull that up for you. And I'll just kind of show you how I looked at it. Let's see. Just a second. The PGA Tour changed their thing, and it's so annoying to try to get to what you actually want to get to. Like if I can click on leaderboard here, but sometimes that leaderboard will take you to the current leaderboard. It makes no sense. All right, so we're gonna go down to the miscuts. Put this down. So Harold Varner III missed the cut on the number, literally on the number. So -4. Interestingly enough, well, I guess they could have gone up and down. So -4 was the number. He shot -3, 71.68. We can look through some basic statistics. So round one, 285, 50% driving accuracy, not good. 67% green regulation. That's pretty good. Same thing on round two, 287 driving distance. So pretty close. 57% here. So 50 in round one. And then he kind of ate it because of the driving accuracy and went down to 55% green regulation. The putts, it's not even putts per green regulation, just putting average, 1.6 and 1.4. Not a big deal. But you can look through his scorecard. Like he didn't really play bad. They even have play-by-play. So you can see like on hole 9, hitting the rough again. So he probably got stymied by some trees, made a bogey. Same thing here. From the tee box, primary rough, greenside bunker, didn't get up and down. Actually, he hit it in the bunker into the rough. Interesting. But he had 2 birdies there. Birdie here, double bogey. Like, honestly, he's not playing that bad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 birdies. Like Harold Varner III to me is definitely in play this week. He should still get some ownership, I assume, over 15. 12%. So I mean, honestly, 10, 12%. That's pretty stellar for me. The same goes for Mito, not to the same extent. Like honestly, to me, this is a perfect reason why game log watching isn't the worst thing in the world, especially when you don't have stats. Like I didn't have stats to see how he did last week. But you can tell, like Hank Lebioda, 66 last Friday. Like that might be, he was highlighted for me, but his stats have been bad. But I mean, that's pretty good. I don't know if they have they don't tell you the putt distance down there. Like, I mean, that's kind of that's kind of the edge that you want to find. And then I mentioned Mito way down. Should have searched it. Way down, way down. Mito. DFL, almost. So you can already see kind of where I'm going here. But round 1, 2 birdies on the front, 1 birdie on the back, 2 bogeys. Not awful. Not bad, not good. And then the next day, I don't know if he started on the front or the back. Started on the front because he went to -1. Birdie the first hole, made a bogey on a par 5. Bogey, double bogey, 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 bogey. I mean, he shot 78 on 1-9. So that's my takeaway there. So for me, Mito and HV3 are certainly in play. If you want to put all your eggs in one basket, you play them together. No one's going to play them together. They want exposure to one of them, but just kind of take it in stride. That's my thought. Hammer and Hank is back, huh? I just think that's a good way to look at it. I mean, like, you see, I mean, the guys are PGA Tour players. They're going to post good scores from time to time, but that also makes them more intriguing to play the next week after a missed cut. And again, it's mainly because there's no data from last week to kind of say, oh, did you see Kyle Stanley gain, 4 strokes on approach? He lost 7 strokes on putting, but he gained 4 strokes on approach in those 2 days. I mean, there's a lot to be gained by the actual score when you don't have the stats. It makes it so much better, but everyone's dealing with the same thing. So in my opinion, be a little more aggressive by embracing the unknown. Now, some of these guys are just not even checking the box last week, and then they missed the cut with a 68. They're not in consideration. So that's really the difference here. Like if Martin Trainer, 69 is really not that low, but let's just say any of these guys were like, you didn't even think twice about them. I'm not going to go through every single person. Like I didn't have interest in Nate Lashley. I'm not going to go through his scorecard. But Mito, I did. Harold Varner III, I did. Russell Knox, I'm going to play this week. He missed the cut. He didn't look that bad. He had 4 birdies in a row. You can't be playing that bad. 4 birdies on the front 9 here. He just didn't play great. So that's the main thing there. Gary Woodland's intriguing. I didn't plan to play him. His score looks a little bit messier to me than some of the other ones. Like an eagle on 13 twice. To me, I feel like you played worse than what you actually shot. The eagle really helps your score. Take that away, you're at 68, 73. So, yeah, I'm not playing any Woodland. Not playing any Woodland. All righty. Any other questions before we get out of here? I'm having too much fun just jumping all around here. Let's see if anyone had like a sneaky low score on Sunday last week. Let me make it big again. And I realize it's big on my screen and probably still not the biggest on your screen. So let me see if I can fix that. That should help. Can I sort this row? Yes. Andrew Novak, 63. Is Andrew Novak in the field this week? Is not. We just lost our edge. Maverick McNeely, Grayson Sigg. There you go. Grayson Sigg, 64 on Sunday. That's a good sign. Svensson's interesting. I didn't mention Svensson. Let me pull him up really quick. I actually think that, and we'll give it a couple more minutes, and then we'll get out of here. Yeah, so T22, T45 with 265. So he's just very up and down. It's almost worth a shot in GPPs. I might throw him in one of the GPPs just for that. Obviously, the stats don't look good. You can't convince somebody off the stats that he's playing well. But I do find it interesting when you see a 65 and another 65. The in-between is bad. I mean, if he shot, 1 over? I think it was a par 71 last week. 1 over and 3 over. and then shot 6 unders between those. Not good, but it's nice to see the ceiling of a 65. Ortiz was probably going to be super chalk this week too. Yeah, I think that's it. Aaron Rye played pretty good. Bezadenhout played better. That's a nice one. I like that. Snedeker was the first round leader last year. That might be something. Giving you guys things to ponder. Might just build a lineup off of whoever shot the lowest on Sunday last week. Bezadenhout's in there. Neiman, Wolf, Scheffler. I'll just go nuts on all the guys I didn't talk about. Christian Ponder. Yeah, you guys can ponder that. All right. Let's see. Pendrith last week. I assume he played good. Kelly Craft shot 52 in round 2, guys. Garrick Higo shot 63. I actually missed that. He's not playing this week, is he? I don't think I saw him. Oh, Higgs. About to say. Did not see Garrick Higo. Did he play Pendrith? There he is. Yeah, so he missed the cut. 76-68. There you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pretty good. But his round 1 killed him, which was just no birdies. I mean, honestly, just no birdies. I assume he probably didn't putt very well. There you go. There's your Pendrith call, Crack Director. Yeah, it very well could have. Again, you just don't know, and it's just kind of the gamesmanship attitude of trying to embrace the unknown, basically, because it's really difficult. I mean, it's like honestly, I could go the other way on this too, because like some of these guys. I don't know if Patrick Reed, no, like Cameron Tringali or like Lanto Griffin, probably. I don't think Lanto Griffin's been playing very good lately, but I think a lot of this data is from a time period when he was playing really well. I take that back. He played good at the Shriners and the Zozo. Played poorly at the cut, or at the cut. He made his cut at the Sanderson, played poorly at the Fortinet. Yeah, so very average, and then all of a sudden spiked the last 2 weeks. So that could be something. It's actually really fun. Like I did this a good bit yesterday. Didn't have a ton of time earlier today, so that's probably why you're wondering why I'm scrolling and looking at all these guys' last week's results, because it's very interesting to see without data, mainly comparing like their ranking. Brian Harmon's fallen off a cliff. I'm glad his ranking caught up to him very fast. He's the worst player in the field, basically. And a month ago, he was the best player in the field. And like Aaron Rye's got nothing going on. I don't know if he made the cut at the Bermuda. I think he played the Bermuda T62. So, like, it's just tough. I mean, these guys go up and down. It's always tough. I mean, Lanto. I assume you're talking about Lanto. Lanto was definitely on my list way too often last season, I feel like. And I don't know why. I mean, I looked at all the same stuff. I must have been looking too much at, because I think I switched. It was probably maybe around March. It was before the summer it was earlier in the year. can't remember. There's a time where I started incorporating more total because I kept getting stupid guys like Lanto and way too much Grillo. And a lot of it was based on like, oh, their ball striking is good. So that's why I started baking out a little bit of putting and mainly total just to offset any just crazy good and bad with the putting or good and bad with the ball striking. Yeah, he looks like he's very straight. I don't know if that's necessarily going to help him too much this week. It's a good point. It's again, it's just a different golf course. All right. I think that does it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the live stream. If you have any last minute questions, you can drop them in the chat. But yeah, hopefully you like the new software. Not as many shiny gadgets, but it actually, from a solo producer standpoint, is actually a lot easier to move stuff around. So hopefully we'll get a guest on here soon. We got some nice boxes so we can do side by sides. That's me. Just the screen. It's a pretty good software bump. Yeah, it's really nice. Very impressed. Again, you can find the PGA rankings for free. Look at that crack drafter. Just pops right up. I don't even have to pre-program it and just type it in and then it goes. FantasyGolfBag.com. Live streaming on your own is such a headache. All righty. We're back to it. Best of luck this week. I'll be in the Discord most of the night. I do have a link in there for the Zoom call, so I'll hop on there if you guys do want to hop on it with me, and I'll demo you know what. But best of luck this week in your contest. Hopefully this was informative. Obviously, this show and the last show kind of went all over the place. There's not as much data to peruse, but hopefully you gain something from this. If you ever have DFS questions, I'm always happy to answer that. Papa Wolf knows this. I know Vince has talked about this before too, but like the GPV mindset, talking through DFS is very important, more so than just the plays. So always happy to talk about strategy in that regard. So appreciate you tuning in to the Fantasy Golf Bag live stream. Like I said, you can follow me on Twitter at RedKachik. And then you can find all my work and the rankings for free at fantasygolfbag.com. Best of luck, and we will see you next week.